What's good, chat? What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome, everyone. We have no Greg on the stream today, so it's just going to be me today. But it's going to give you guys the opportunity to direct the ship, so to speak. Bring me. We're talking to you today, so welcome. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone is good. Let's see here. Guys are pretty active. Steve is quite anticipating tonight. Welcome, Steve. Doug, how you doing? We need some new wave welcome music with these colors. Yeah. Find me the what you call it? Copyright free, and I'll gladly throw it on there for these. Chad going solo. To those of you who don't know, Greg and Hanson are both at press days for the New York Auto Show. So we'll have one or both of them back next week to go over everything that was new and exciting there. I am, quote unquote, just holding it down here in the studio. Steve would like some 80s hair metal. Again, copyright free 80s hair metal. I'm not looking to get demagged. At any rate, yeah, yes. Steve forgot about the car show. Well, don't worry. The public days are end of this weekend. This weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Not sure how much longer than that, but weirdly enough, the New York Auto Show is why we started doing shifting lanes. Is we wanted to go there, go to press days, and like 12 years later, we're a little different, but still to see the boys going to the show. Can't work and Easter. Well, the good news is that not much. Car shows are kind of dying, so we'll cover it for you, Steve. We'll tell you everything you missed next week. Everything should be good there. Let's see here. Alrighty. Just real quick while you guys get fired up. I'm gonna go on a slightly, not sure, but buckle in because there's a lot of you guys know. Here, if friends of the show, Steve goes, who's gonna want to look at Dodge anymore? Dodge, Ram, basically anything Mopar, and the Hurricane's a crazy interesting engine. It's that thing has some crazy tuning potential, but that makes it more of an import than, say, a muscle car. Doug goes, people have been looking at Dodge. Yeah, Doug. I mean, they did do stuff post Rampage. So, but at any rate, we've talked about it at length here on this show. The new Charger, you have an EV variant. Not so much. And you have an internal combustion engine variant, which we should all be excited for, but this guy ain't. Mostly because it's, like I said, it's a straight 6. It's a great engine, don't get me wrong. And it'd be cool to swap that into something. Annoy purists and swap it where like a 2J used to live. I think that would annoy the hell out of people. But it's not a V8. And the V8 is the soul of the muscle car. It is the quote-unquote muscle of a muscle car. I know, Ford, all these cars coming with their car, they offered small engine options. But it's not the one you want. It's the one you get. It's not the one you want. Let's see here. Steve goes, I was there when they introduced the Camaro and Challenger concepts, and now they're killed off. I mean, let's face it, right? The Mustang is the only pony car. It started the whole genre, and it's continuing, and it survived when the Challenger went away the first time, the Camaro went away the first time, and it's surviving when those are going away again. And guess what? They said, we're keeping the V8. And no, I think Ford, Mopar was the leader, right? They understood their market better than most. They weren't going to be the fastest around corners. They weren't going to be, the lightest car. They were going to have muscle, right? Like Hellcats and 392s and big V8s and all this other sort of stuff. And they were on a 30-year-old platform. Or a 20-year-old platform, whatever you want to call it. But people kept buying it because they understood it. Now they're going to this, and everybody's like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing? And Ford's over here like, you don't want to make a V8? We're going to, fine by us. We'll just make more. Or it's not dying or anything like that. And the Mustang endures because they have always gotten their clientele better than the competitors. You know, look at the first death of quote unquote the Camaro, right? The Camaro was getting more and more away from that angular sort of muscular look, and it became, what was it, the fourth gen? Just became a cheese wedge. Now, it wasn't an ugly car, especially if you put some good wheels on it, lowered it, puts good accent. It didn't actually look all that bad, but it was a departure from what, you know, Ford almost went through this when they decided they wanted to make the Probe the next Mustang. Like, most people don't realize that the Probe was the going to be the next Mustang, and everybody's like, no, don't do that. It's, first of all, it doesn't look like it's supposed to. Front wheel drive, no V8. Like, no, stop, don't do that. And Camaro followed the styling cues, died. Now Dodge is following the engine cues of no V8, and for my money, that has killed off their muscle car endeavor. Why don't that go away? Go away. There we go. And Andrew over on YouTube, what's going on, man? Welcome. Ask away. Ask questions away. Happy. I'm here for it tonight. Should be a good one. Andrew over on Facebook, welcome. Good to see you 2 weeks in a row. Good to have you back, man. Let's see here. Doug, I got my start in auto sales industry with a CJD. God, chat's moving too fast. I got my start in auto sales with a Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealer in 2008, actually. Haven't been with Volvo my whole life. I'm not surprised, but I'm also like not surprised that like there wasn't like a side, there wasn't like a deviation for like, you know, hey, I got my start here, and then for like 2 years I worked at a, hey, come check out these odd and weird and random cars, just because your fleet of cars runs the gamut, so to speak, from classic to Volvo to, I don't think you have anything Pacific Rim, but anyway, Steve goes lies. Volvo's runs in your blood, Doug. It's transfusion. Yes, Andrew, I know you're on Facebook. I have another Andrew on YouTube. We have multiple Andrews. And Steve goes, the Probe hasn't been around for over 20 years. Well, that should kind of give you an idea of Ford making the right choice. Here's the thing. They put all their R&D and stuff into making the Probe the next Mustang, which was originally a Mazda, I forget. But it was based off of a Mazda front. I think the 626. I could be wrong there. Don't quote me on that. But they were taking a Mazda platform. They were going to give it a sporty body, and they were going to call it the Mustang. Everyone's like, nah, no, you're not going to do that. And Ford's like, we seem to have struck a nerve. So what they ended up doing was updating the Fox body, or the Fox platform, which ranged, I have close to, I want to say almost 20 cars across the Ford, Lincoln, Mercury lineup. And that was, that's when we, gosh, the code names are, but basically that's where we got the next gen of Mustang, and then kind of went from there. But yeah, it goes to show you that none of these auto manufacturers are immune to being out of touch with their markets, because everyone's had a moment of it. It just takes the smart ones or the brave ones to be like, nah, we ain't gonna do that. Doug goes, fan write-in campaign, save the Mustang. But I admit, I do like the Probe too. I didn't mind the second-gen Probe. It actually looked pretty decent. It had a decent little engine. That and the SVT Contour, believe it or not, were two cars when I was like first getting my license on like fun, sort of affordable cars. Because the Contour had a 2.5 liter V6, which made a pretty awesome noise. I ended up with a Focus, but those cars were always interesting. I mean, my family had a Contour, so it was cool that there was a hot Contour, and everything. But I like the cars, just not with a Mustang badge on it. Just the same way that, like, I don't hate the concept of an electric crossover. kind of diving into some of that Mustang lore, but I don't like it with a Mustang badge. Calling it just the Mach-E alone would have been enough. I don't think they got any sort of discernible sales increase by calling it a Mustang. It probably hurt them in some respects. But it's just these marketing people they see a brand or a sub brand within their company, and they're like, wow, people love this. If we just slap it on here, people are going to buy it. And that's not necessarily the case. But the Mach-E has done pretty well sales-wise, so it's not going anywhere. But it's just not a Mustang. It just isn't. The whole idea of a pony car, which the Mustang created, was engine up front, rear-wheel drive, 2+2 seating arrangement, so you could theoretically put the kids in the back. And they've always had decent room until later years when they became more the heavy sports car, which is kind of the best way to define a pony car. They're not a true muscle car, even though they can go in that direction. They've always been a little sportier, and so on. But Doug goes, I owned a 1999 Camry my grandma gave me. It was far too problem-free to keep. That arguably is the most Doug statement in the history of this channel in our group. Hated it. Sold it to a young gal who just got her license, but I could go for a Fairlady or something weird like that. And of course, I do like the Miata. Fair enough. That actually is a good point. Guys, in chat, let me know, to those of you watching, what was your first car? First car that was yours. Not necessarily, so like, I'll use an example. For me, I drove my parents' Contour, and I drove my parents' Chevy Venture minivan, which is what every high school age kid loves driving back in the early 2000s. But my first car that was mine was a Ford Focus. I want to know what you guys had. Steve, everyone was pissed as well that the Probe was front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder, turbo, trying to call it a Mustang. It was... yeah, I mean, again, there are certain vehicles that have certain things baked into them, and if they depart from it, they cease to be that vehicle. A muscle car without a V8 ceases to be a muscle car. It just becomes a sports sedan or what have you. Let's see here. Anthony over in Facebook. I don't know what you're talking about exactly. The Taurus SHO with the wiggle stick. Those original Taurus shows were pretty impressive for what they were, and what Yamaha got out of those engines without boost is a testament to Yamaha and a indictment on that, whatever it was. It was a pushrod V6 that made no horsepower, and they gained like 50% horsepower just by new heads, new intake manifold, a dual overhead cam design over the pushrod 6. Like, and it's one of the things, like we talked about Yamaha last week with their new boat engine, but like Yamaha's been in the auto industry for ever. It was way back in the 60s-ish when Datsun was working on the Fairlady. Originally, that was a joint project with Yamaha because the Japanese government said, okay, you're not doing so great, and you're not doing so great. Work together, make something, and there we go. And Datsun or Nissan didn't like the design direction, so they abandoned it, and that actual project was the inspiration behind the 2000 GT that Toyota made, which arguably was the first LFA. A Toyota that's such a departure, it's so expensive that it wasn't really on brand, but it was an amazing piece of engineering. Let's see here. Andrew Pastorelli over on YouTube. His first car, if I'm reading this correctly, a 1967 Volvo 122S Coupe. It's a hell of a first car. As Greg has mentioned a bunch on this channel, one of those, or in coupe or wagon form, is one of those things we would love to get our hands on in Resto Mod. Doug, 1984 AMC Eagle. I think I knew that, but again, that is just, I mean, right on brand with Doug. Uh, Steve, in 1986, GTA TA that I never got running at my uncle's shop when I was 15, and I caught it on fire. Um, all right. It's an interesting story, at least, if nothing else. Anthony commenting on the Taurus show intake manifold by Yamaha. Yeah, the bundle of snakes intake manifold is incredible, and I think it's. I'm really stretching my memory on this. I think they had variable. They had two different length. Maybe I'm thinking of a different car, but either way, that engine supposedly revved past 8,000 RPM. It just stopped making power after 74 ish. God, really testing my Taurus knowledge at this point. But they developed that engine for the show, but they were also working on a little mid-engine V6 powered sports car that really never got off the ground. Andrew Pastorelli, YouTube. Yeah, I bought the 122S before I even had my license. That's pretty cool. Like, that runs deep. I mean, I tried to get various different types of vehicles before I got my license to work on. But my dad was too logical to let me do that. So I had so many different cars picked out that I wanted, and then we ended up with the sensible hatchback that I proceeded to almost immediately modify because car guy. Doug goes, there's a fun question. What is the best car you ever caught on fire? I managed to catch a 1957 Corvette on fire. I ripped my shirt off like a stripper to beat out the flames to save it. Now there's an image. Wow. Speaking of Doug, thank you so much for Doug went over and got one of our Elliot the Cat Drifting of Volvo shirts. Thank you so much. Anthony has re-upped as a supporter, so thank you so much again for that. Let's see here. Jose over on YouTube. I have a C30 R Design automatic. I can put all engine mods. Elevate question mark. If you can get them, it's been a minute since I've been out of the C30 game. Since I've been in the C30 game. But I do know that they had some fulfillment issues. Depending on what you're looking to do, I would save your money and not do like a cold air intake, because they're not. It's a hot air intake, and once the car is up to temperature, it is actually going to cost you horsepower. A good drop-in filter would be the best option there, or what's the website? There is someone out there who makes a true sort of like ram air style cold air intake. I forget. I'm not being helpful with that. But if I was to modify it, I'd find someone to do the upper intake, where the turbo meets from the turbo to the mass airflow sensor, downpipe and exhaust, 8.8 fab. If you're looking for an exhaust, would be my first where I would go. They did an exhaust for us back in the day, and it sounded incredible, and it's still an absolute, sounded epic, was brilliant. Would be where I would go. And then a tune, but it's really, here's the deal. It's hard to find tunes. Shark, I don't know what's going on with them. Hilton, they're really laggy with response times from everything I've read. But yeah, I mean, it all really, really depends on what you're going for. Look, if Elevate fits your price tag, and it works out for you, go for it. I put all Elevate stuff on my car. Full disclosure, I did have a deal with them when I owned my C30. So their parts, I have no complaints with their parts. But I have heard some complaints, and I want to make sure you have all the info there. Um, let's see here. It's Doug kind of piggybacks on this was Jose, Elevate is fine most of the time. I have found some good deals on Puma Speed for the Focus. Even with shipping, parts were cheaper than the Volvo branded stuff. That is an excellent point. I forget the C30 and the Focus shared a platform, so you can find some pretty good deals on Focus parts for the C30. I know sway bars, if you go with the Mazda Speed 3 of the same era, that's a good inexpensive way to upgrade sway bars. If you get the S40 all-wheel drive or V50 all-wheel drive brakes, that's a good little factory big brake kit. 320 millimeters up front, I believe. And all you have to do is change out the carrier in the back so it fits. That's a really good mod. Suspension mods, Bilstein B16, B14s. The B14s were incredible. So again, it really depends on what you're looking to do. I would suggest find the C30 Volvo C30 group on Facebook. Join them. See what they have to say. It can be good. There's some misinformation on there. The previous owner of my car is, we'll just say he's doing things on there. But a guy you really want to look at, contact with or ping for most, really anything Volvo, is Rich Forsyth. The man is a legend. He is, he knows just, I mean, he's basically the guy who wrote the book on doing the all-wheel drive swap in those cars, and he knows those cars so well, it's pretty insane. So it's that's the route I would go. But again, it's like any other car. You just figure out what you kind of want to do and go from there. Like I said, Elevate's a good option. If you have success with them, go for it. Let's see here. Duck goes, the hot air intake is the best, though. It makes working on the P1 so much nicer. I will agree with that. The stock intake is a pain in the ass to remove. Having that intake on there does make things like the oil filter, the thermostat, all of that way easier to work on. But the downside is that, and you get a lot of really awesome, you hear the turbo noises a lot more with it. There's a lot of benefits to it, but as any sort of like cold air intake, if it's not a closed system, it's not going to add horsepower. That's just the nature of the beast. Intake air temperature is a thing. When you watch these guys at the strip, like if you watch like a Cletus McFarland or you watch like Street Outlaws back in the day, and they're talking about bad air. That could just be hot air, that could be really humid air, that could just be, all these things go into it, and they can rob you of horsepower to such a degree that like my Mustang monitors intake air temp, and it's part of the tune. So you want really cold air. That's why on my Mustang, centrifugally supercharged headers, intake manifold, the lot. 705 at the tire has a drop-in filter in the stock airbox, and that's the kind. We could probably pick up another 20 horsepower on the dyno with a cold air unit, but it's exposed, so it's great. And when you're moving at the strip, it's going to help. When you're driving around town, stop and go, and not moving a lot of air through the front of the car, it's not going to make more power. It's it's one of those myths of horsepower. I gotta find that intake. Let's see here. C30 cold. There's a few systems. Here it is. This is the one I was talking about. Do 88 makes a good intake. And then, yeah, I guess we'll just. That's the one I was. Oh God, where did it go? Do 88 was the one I was thinking of. There's another one that has an insulated box, something like that. But yeah, if you're wanting that extra performance and the ease of maintenance, because I will say, getting that stock airbox out it sucked. You can go back and watch my trials and tribulations on that, and it's pretty bad. Let's see here. I want it for normal use, not for race. Yeah, I mean, if it's normal use, start with an exhaust. You're going to need a tune if you go with a big pipe. Start with exhaust. Then I would do a front mount intercooler and the requisite sort of big. There's bigger pipe kits that help move a little. You're moving a little bit more air with a tune. It kind of turns boost up a little bit. So you're going to that more efficient intercooler. The stock intercooler is not bad. Not a lot of cars come from factory with a front mount that are turbocharged. So it's a halfway decent unit, but it does run out of efficiency at certain at higher temperatures. Let's see here. Andrew. Andrew goes, I would like a Volvo shirt. Well, let me just see here. Go to store. I will drop a link for the shirt that Doug got. Not sure. It might not be your cup of tea. We did it as a joke because we've been having Alvis on the show, and he's a bit of a cat dad. So, but I dropped the link in there if you want to take a look at that. Let's see here. Anthony goes, I think our 98 Pathfinder was my driving test car. Because I think Doug, or Steve asked, what did everyone take their driver's test in? Steve did a 97 Lumina. That's pretty on brand for you, Steve, not going to lie. 98 Pathfinder for Anthony. Doug continues, Euro Focus RS used the Volvo 5-cylinder. Yes, it did. I believe the Focus ST also did, too. Let's see here. We got Bill over on Facebook. So I have heard that the 3.7 Ford Mustang with a dual flywheel is supposed to have vibration on a downshift or a reduction in power. Not 100% certain. I have to be 100% honest with you. Those engines I'm not an expert on. The whole reason you would have a dual mass flywheel, though, is to reduce vibration and reduce harshness. A reduction in power I might be a tuning thing that they put in for safety reasons. I don't know. But I'm not 100% certain that you should be having a vibration when you downshift. That could clutch, flywheel, something could be going on there. Doug goes, I buy things as a joke, referring to the Elliot the Drift Cat shirt. Yeah, I mean, we made it as a joke, so kudos. Andrew Campbell over on YouTube. I have a lot of respect for Peter that helped invent and created the P2 platform line, especially around the time of year 1996, 97, 98. It was around the time when Peter and Volvo was struggling to build and create P2. When it all started with the S80, when the French car from a French company that Peter and Volvo was going to steal was off, used 850 redesign and rebuilt the Volvo S80. They replaced the S90, and they have to drop. That is a lot of Volvo. Good information. I knew none of that. I cannot comment on it. Doug goes, the ST in the U.S. was a four-cylinder. Was still a Ford. I was still at Ford then. Now I'm sure what the Limey's got. Doug, you're thinking of the ST that came over here, the RS. The Focus that shared a platform with the C30, we didn't get. It's specifically the hot versions. So the ST and the RS were Euro spec. The ST that we eventually got was on the next platform that also was the RS that we got. Not sure if that's what you're referencing or what have you. I gotta look at it. 5. Focus. It's gonna bug me. I gotta. This was the generation Focus we're talking about. And the ST did come with a 5-cylinder. I'm not losing my mind. So that's good. Let's see here. Andrew over on YouTube. Dual mass flywheels can go bad, fail, but it's not common. I'd look into engine transmounts. Good point. U-joints or a drive shaft carrier bearing if it has one. Excellent information. Way to go into great, much better detail than, than I did. I don't know why my chat is being weird. Anywho, let's see here. Oh, good. Sean has entered the chat. Welcome, Sean. Hello in West Virginian. Doug goes, as good as the 850 was, it was really short-lived. The P2 really kept Volvo alive well enough for Ford to want. Doug thanks the maker that Sean is here. Anthony says, what's up? Sean goes, the Mazda 3 of that era was also the same shared platform. Yeah, I was... Yes, we mentioned that before. Anywho, Anthony goes, we got a Carlisle Virgin among us. Who? Steve? I haven't been keeping track. I haven't been to Carlisle long enough to enough times. Sean goes, I cannot see chat. I'll BRP. Fair enough. Nice, Andrew. Thank you appreciate that, buddy. Speaking of Carlisle, that's coming up relatively soon. What is it, in May? May. Should probably get on that. I have had to book so many freaking hotel rooms this summer, chat. Like between weddings, between a trip that hopefully is going to be happening, Carlisle. Like, I mean, I have the time for travel. It's just like, all right, phew, got that hotel. Oh crap, I have to do it again. Andrew Pastorelli over on YouTube asks, is anyone going to the FCP event at Lime Rock? Greg may. I probably will not. Like I said, I got a lot going on this summer, and I got a lot, and my I have deadlines to reach end of July, early August that are coming up really, really fast. And with how I've missed a lot of time due to illness this year, I'm behind. I'm still catching up, but It's manageable now, but I was way behind. So getting getting back. What am I even trying to say? Catching up with that, the amount of travel I'm already committed to, the amount of weddings this year. It's one of those years. Yeah, definitely going to Carlisle. Greg is a maybe for Lime Rock. I am unfortunately out. Although Greg is probably the one you want at those meets anyway. Um, just because he's more one of you guys than kind of I am. I'm the guy who dabbled with Volvo and was like, huh, yeah, I'm gonna go get a V8 now. So, he's stuck. He's stuck true to the brand. Uh, Steve and the Carlisle Virgin, Steve and Sean. It seems Carlisle was May 10th and 11th. The movie this year will be Ford versus Ferrari. Fantastic. I can't wait to let you all know. Oh, that means I can tell you every single thing that movie's totally skipped over, which has annoyed me, but it's relatively fruitful. Or it's relatively faithful, I'm sorry, to quote-unquote the source material. But the fact that they didn't mention, they showed a couple, but they didn't mention the Daytonas at all is a massive oversight in excuse me, in my opinion. Andrew goes, if Greg attends, I'd be curious to get his thoughts on driving my 2017 2.0 Polestar compared to the 3.0. Yeah, I mean, he'll be back next week, Andrew, theoretically speaking, but more than likely he'll be back next week. So, absolutely mention that next week if you're around. I don't see why he wouldn't be would be opposed to drive. I like driving fun cars, so what have you. Anthony goes, Greg is registered and set up for camping. Anthony, you seem to know what everyone is doing on a mildly concerning level. Yeah. Doug goes, replying to Andrew on YouTube, the 2.0 is awesome, but the 3.0 is the better option in my opinion. Haven't driven both. Lucky Doug. Still, the first time I drove the 2.0, I felt it was close to a perfect car if only it was a manual. The 8-speed transmission is better, but not as fun. As is all things. Manual of the world. Up until a point. I've said here a lot, and I feel qualified to say this. Once you start getting to like the 7, 8, 900 horsepower range, a good automatic... manuals are fun. Like, my car is a hell of a lot of fun with the manual. But at those power levels, manual, whether it be, you have to make compromises with clutches, you have to make compromises with flywheels. Like with the lightweight flywheel and the puck design of my clutches, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes. And it's a twin disc, and the chatter annoys the shit out of me sometimes. Would I go back and take? No, I'm keeping it that way. It's just part of it. It's part of the overall experience. While that may not be great, I still love it. I love it as being part of the total animal. Sean goes, I'm unable to see chat at all. I guess that's I mean, have you gone outside and made sure the magical Wi-Fi fairy that you have? I have no idea. I got nothing. I was trying to make... Anywho. Andrew. Sadie and chill at Carlisle. Chat pauses as he wants to lose his man license. No, I believe every car under certain power thresholds is improved with a manual. But there's certain cars, like, you have to ask, there's certain power levels where having the manual and running through the gears, you lose it because you're basically in one gear anyway. I could have all the fun in the world in third gear in my car, make all the torque I need to, get it to a decent red line, have it make all the noises that it should, all of that in one gear. So you don't, um, so like the joy of a manual, you're just kind of missing out on. Whereas something with less power, where you have to kind of go up and down the rev range through the gears to kind of get the most out of it, you're having a little bit more fun, you're a little bit more engaged. That's the point I'm trying to say. Sean goes, I actually like ripping paddle shifters. Depends on the transmission. If it's slow and dim-witted, it pisses me off. If I pull the paddle and then it downshifts, I have a problem with it. If it's, and Greg's car, I will say to its credit, is one of the better downshifts, which is weird because the S60 that I drove that's newer has then it downshifts to an annoying degree, to the point where that car would be really, really good if the transmission was a little less slow and dim-witted. Steve goes, Chad, you lose weight, you look slimmer. I appreciate that. I have no idea. I am trying to slim down, but I don't really go through the whole process of like weighing myself. I go by based on how I feel and mostly whether or not my knees are sore. But yeah, I'm trying. It sucked because like I've missed a month and a half being laid up, but hey, YouTube Andrew, the 2.0 diesels, which are the same block as the gas, came with a manual in Europe. In theory, you could potentially manual swap one, but getting the final drive ratios to match and the electrical system to not freak out would be a custom nightmare. Well, that's the thing. You would basically at that point have to have the easiest would be some form of standalone to control the engine. Shoot, you probably could just run it through a really good standalone ECU that would handle everything from your TC. The all-wheel drive system, I don't know how I don't know enough about like Haldex or whatever how that works. But let me put it to you this way, if there are guys all-wheel drive swapping C30s, I'm willing to bet it could be done. Sean goes, I don't know either. It looks Facebook is failing us again. And Doug goes, less power with a manual is better. I do agree. Yeah, it's like I said. Do I enjoy my car? Hell yeah. Is it fun? Hell yeah. Do I come close to that 7,600 RPM red line now as opposed to when it was naturally aspirated as much? No. And that's part of the shame because, like, let me put it this way. If I'm revving out first gear, if I go to redline, I'm doing a burnout. Or it's just taking a very long time, and that's boring. Second gear, I'm doing a lot of speed. Like it's fast. Even with, and that's the thing. It's because like even though the final drive ratio stayed at 373 rear gears, the gear ratios in the transmission itself were lengthened. So I get more out of each gear, which at the drag strip, ton of sense. But now, like, I mean, I guess I could run around in second gear if I really wanted to. It's just you have to be careful. You know, like 400 horsepower can knock the tires off the right car, right? Well, I have double that at the crank. It's something you have to pay, but I like that. I like having to pay attention, to be to not just be able to mat like there is something to be said for enjoying a car where you can just sort of mat the throttle and excuse me, and go. But there is also something to throttle modulation, which I kind of like. That said, like on some of the back roads, they recently repaved our favorite test road, so I'm able to have fun with that. Like when Greg drove the Mustang, if you watch that, oh shoot, I still have to do me driving the pull finish. Wow, I am so far behind on so many things, chat. But we got on it pretty good, and I was able to stand on it pretty good. It's just, I mean, it's been a minute. We're finally getting warmer temps. Rain last 2 days, but finally get some warmer temps, and my wheels should actually, my tires should actually be grippy, or my summer should be back on it and grippy again. Let's see here. Anthony goes, it's because Volvo and Polestar nailed it with the P3. Yep, I do apple cider. I do. I've been recently doing bone broth with a whole mess of different stuff that I don't even remember. It's pre-made, but it's all stuff that has come recommended through various sources. And then I gotta just start being active again. Hopefully with the summer, golf is coming back, and that's my outdoor activity. Oh, and so on. But yeah. Let's see here. All right. No, it just dawned on me that the. Hold on. I need to do math. Scary, I know. Let's see here. 215 plus. At the crank, the Mustang almost makes the same amount of horsepower as my last three cars: the IS300, the C30, and the E46 M3. Actually, it makes me feel pretty good. Steve goes, do you think we'll have a meetup sometime in April before Carlisle? I'm hoping. Greg and I are working to try to figure out dates and things like that. It's really, a lot of it's predicated on obviously our schedules. Mine sort of, my schedule this week and what it looks like for next week could change by the end of this week. Could change by the beginning of that's the thing. So we're trying to figure out some dates. So I'm trying, Steve. I want to. And we're gonna try hard to get it done. Sean goes, so Timmy will be present at Carlisle with his full correct set of wheels. Follow-up question, who's Timmy? He goes, I may even straighten out his chin splitter, but I'm not repainting the license plates unless the cop says something. Gotcha. Oh, wait. Anyway. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, Steve, it's a Volvo, given the nature of this group. It's a 940 turbo. Got it. Ding, ding, ding. Steve was correct. You win an all-expense paid trip to West Virginia on horseback. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, to answer Steve's previous question, I took my driving test in a manual Ford Contour because it was just the instructor's like, you sure? I'm like, let's just get it over with. The driving test is woefully inadequate to test your ability to actually drive a vehicle, and it always has been. I think the driving test should be at minimum that all the stuff it is, your ability to park, your ability to parallel park, your ability to do a K-turn. How much of that stuff do you use day to day? I mean, I barely if ever parallel park. Parking's important, obviously. And a K-turn we use probably if daily, if not. You use the concepts of a K-turn daily, if not more than that. I'll just accept a gift card from Wawa instead. Thanks. Yeah, I'll send one right over. Amount to be determined. but there's no real. You're on the road for a minute. You're not really. Your decision making isn't really put to the test, which I think is more important than your ability to parallel park. Like your ability to make smart decisions, your ability to understand simple driving mechanics like merge, the zipper method for merging, which a lot of people don't seem to understand. It daily I run into that where it's like, nope, I'm going to be in front of you. You're not, because you're going to zipper. Yeah, you're not going to get you're not going to get where you're going faster. And if it is, we're talking fractions of a second. Sean Ford goes, my driving test was around a Walmart parking lot during a horrific rainstorm. I mean, that's not enough. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and question your ability to drive. Like, I'm not. But, like, you did that. And now, as far as the government was concerned, you're free to go onto interstates, any other road, middle of a city, middle of a town, anywhere in the country with a car. And I don't know your age, and I don't know the license restrictions, but the only thing New Jersey did was, like, after you got your license, you were a probationary driver. All that meant was you couldn't drive after 11 without a, same thing, like a licensed driver of 5+ years or something like that. And you could only have one passenger in the car with you. And again, unless you had that experienced driver with you. That's it. No more training. No more testing the ability of the person to understand simple things like, momentum. Cars are heavy. Gravity is a bitch. Momentum is always to be conserved. So, like going around a corner too fast, what's your car going to do? And how does your throttle input change that? How does your throttle, whether you on the throttle or off the throttle? Because most people in a rear-wheel drive car, when the ascent starts to do that, they lift. Well, what's going to happen? Tires slow down and grab. And the car's going wherever you're pointing the steering wheel. How many people understand that concept? Not enough. And I also, Steve goes, I like the shifting lane stickers, drops the mic. Fair enough. Be sick for half the year. I'm just saying. I mean, they're right over there. I'll get to them. I promise. It will happen. Andrew over on YouTube, I had 4 hours of driving time on my permit before going for my driver's test. Passed the first time. That says quite a bit, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how many hours I had on my permit because, I had 6 hours to get my permit with an instructor. Then every chance, my dad said, you're driving. And I'm going to bring whatever's left over, Doug, sticker-wise. 100%. I hope to be getting those out, if I remember, next week. Hopefully within the next 7 days. And then Sean again goes, how to merge, find a hole, and politely put your car in said hole. Right, but if everybody sat here and was aware of and understood and taught to such a degree that was part of your test how to zipper, merge, process would be so much easier. I also think this whole you've heard me rant on it before. These generations of pedestrians that have the right of way or can just walk. It boggles the mind how dumb the average pedestrian is. You want to sit here and talk about someone who's absolutely failing at physics? It's pedestrians. I had an experience last week, just driving through a parking lot, and these people, first of all, they just sort of sat there in their car as I'm parking. Okay, good for you. Then they take for goddamn ever to park. and then they just stand where all the cars want to go. If I had done that as a kid, my dad would have just been like, get the out of the way. And they have no concept. They're the most important person in that interaction. And that carries over to driving. And, you know, it's the same basic concept and I'll put it to you on the opposite side of the equation. You know, we all complain about the lane hogs in the left lane coming from Pennsylvania in the state of fucking New Jersey. I don't know what they teach you in PA, but the left lane is for passing. Get the F out of the way. Oh, but on the flip side, the jackasses that are weaving in and out of traffic only to get to the exit a quarter mile before you do. Like, it's a level of selfishness. It's societal, right? Like, just go and look at the average commenter on a post on any social media or whatever. Their opinion is fact. It's the most important one. Anyone who disagrees is wrong, and there's no conversation about it. I am the most important person in this conversation. The rest of you can fuck off. See it on the road. People can't merge. People can't drive properly. People don't understand simple concepts. People who sit there in the middle of the freaking road. Like, I was driving through one of the bigger towns in my area not too long ago. There's cars lining both sides of the street. So I saw a guy walk out from behind a car, and they get mad that cars were on the road. Like, there's crosswalks for a reason, one. Two, like, the idea that I will jump out and people will stop is, one, ballsy. Because if they don't stop and you venture too far, their bumper's broken. Their airbag might deploy. They might puncture a radiator, break a headlight. Inconvenient for sure. You're dead. And nobody gets that concept. They don't understand the fucking concept of a car meets fleshy human. Who's winning? Doug goes, the failure of the zipper is proof that communism can never work. I mean, proof that so many concepts can't work, Doug. Because humans, they mess it up. And I'm not saying communism is a good thing, because it ain't. It ain't. But there are actually good ideas ruined by the fact that people, on average, are dumb. Think about it. Think about how dumb the average human being is, and then realize half the population's dumber. YouTube Andrew, yeah, driver's exam, super challenging. Oh, you have more than 3 brain cells that aren't fighting each other for the last 10 minutes. Here's a license. I mean, and it's the flip side of that. You get woefully educated. The testing is inadequate at best. And in that same situation where someone's, say, legally crossing a crosswalk, and this person's not paying attention, or they look down, they don't have the experience or the knowledge base to say, I'm approaching an intersection. Let me scan for human beings. Or, better yet, just assume that someone's there and hover the brake. They're not doing that. Now someone who's actually an intelligent pedestrian, which is a dying breed, but for the sake of this argument, we'll talk about it, or we'll use them. And now, even at 25 miles an hour, a car hits them. Their life is forever changed. Sean, I think bad drivers should be sent to drive in Russia for a few months, and if they survive, they may come back and get their license back. I mean, pick a third world country. The standard of driving in America compared to the rest of the Western world is not great. But you insert the third, and it's a free-for-all. Go look at driving in, like, India. Right? Honestly, I think if you're a bad driver, if you get, you know, common sense shit, again, I don't think necessarily there should be a penalty. I think there just should be more education. You know, maybe you spend a few more. Maybe the requirement is 10 hours or 12 hours with an instructor, and just like a scout, just like a coach who's helping you get. I'll use sports because that's arguably the easiest thing. But I had coaches. Some coaches were coaching me in the moment. Some coaches were coaching me for the next level. And some coaches were telling me what I needed to improve upon for the next level. Imagine if we applied that to driving instruction. Okay, here's what you're doing well. Here's what you need to improve on. Here's what we're going to work on next time. And we go through that. Not, okay, gas, brake. In a panic situation, you don't freak out and slam the gas. All that sort of stuff. More instruction. More experience. Like, most of you are a better driver today than you were at 18, 17, 16 in some states. Why is that? Experience. Let's see here. Andrew on Facebook goes, I seen a Pontiac Fiero yesterday. So rare you don't really see them anymore, probably because they all caught fire. Your old man used to have one years ago. I think they caught a bad stigma and they just aren't desirable, and people aren't really actively, I don't want to say saving them, but they're not sought after. Anthony goes, you know who really doesn't have a grasp on personal safety awareness? The majority of motorcyclists. I mean, yes. But again, if you apply the same thing I'm saying what's wrong with the driver to the motorcyclist, now they're in a smaller vehicle and they can fit more places. That said, if you see a motorcyclist driving down, say, the shoulder or what have you, I saw this one year when I was on going down the shore. Guy got pissed that this dude was riding on the inside shoulder, opened his door. Well, the motorcyclist wasn't paying attention. Now the motorcycle is injured, and that guy's car is no longer operable safely. Or legally, for that matter. So really, who did he... You know? Cyclists without a motor are a menace. Especially the ones that take it a little too seriously and you see them in their little fucking Lycra. Like, they believe that God created roads specifically for them. And God forbid... I had a cyclist last fall. A group of them. You know. The peloton, as it were. Just in the center of my lane. And they could have moved 2 feet and made me passing easier. And it was on a windy road, so certain sections I can't see. You know, what that not necessarily a blind corner, but like maybe a blind exit of said corner. A straightaway that led to a corner where you can't really ups and down. I have never come so close to just gently nudging a freaking cyclist with my car. And when I did pass them, they're all like shaking their fist at me. It's like, get fucked. Let's see here. Doug was in the Republic of Georgia. When no one was driving in the other directions, all lanes went in one direction. If someone started coming, everyone tried to move back over. Sort of like all cars were made of Bondo. I mean, you former Soviet state, by the way, communism at work. Excuse me. But, like, that's another, like, that's the thing. Like, all these small third worlds are not developing world. Like, I don't know, man. When you look at that sort of stuff, complaining about the standard of the American motorist seems a little like, you serious? Like, look at what these assholes are doing. But I would argue that we use driving for transportation way more than a lot of these other countries. European countries, England, all those, so on and so forth. Um, took us lots of Lada Nivas. I was still jealous, of course. Maybe you should like sell like 7 of your projects and import a Niva. Just saying, it's an idea. Steve goes, I heard that New Jersey is going to increase the time for the youngsters. I mean, that's another thing. So, the added date that it is getting your license at a certain age, right? Some states it's 16. So why, I don't know, but I'm going to just pick a state at random for the sake of my point. So you're saying me and telling me that 16-year-olds in Arizona are better equipped to drive a vehicle than 16-year-olds anywhere else in the country. Or, better yet, in the state of New Jersey, if you have something that can quote-unquote be classified a farm, and just keep in mind, that could be something as simple as allotting a plot of your land for wood farming, and all you have to produce is, I think, a yard or one or two, might be 1 to 3 yards of, say, firewood a year. Just basically chop down a tree or two. That's a farm. So in the state of New Jersey, if you grew up on a farm, you get a farmer's license at 16. You might be smarter than the average guy. You might also be dumber. Doesn't matter. States use it the same. Steve goes, I've always had a 0-point driving record. I got to be honest, I've never been more disappointed in you. I believe every single person in this chat has had some sort of points on their license at some point. And yeah, Andrew, anything with a Bugatti badge is climbing in price. And like pre-war and post, just especially like pre-war stuff, really expensive. And Steve goes, in Colorado, you can't go around a cyclist on certain roads. Well, yet another reason why I'm glad I don't live in Colorado. Spent a decent amount of time out there, but YouTube Andrew, gotta love a cyclist seeing a windy, hilly road with 45-mile-an-hour speed limit with maybe an inch of runoff on the side and thinking, yep, that's a perfect road to ride on. I mean, they want to ride on it for the same reason we want to drive on it. If I'm being perfectly honest, right? It's more enjoyable. It's better to look at. It's all that other sort of stuff. One of my best friends was huge into cycling. But like he actually would go on rides and training rides with guys who've competed in like the Tour de France and stuff like that. And even he was like, yeah, some of these guys are just assholes. You know, they think they own the road. And again, it goes back to it. I think if we taught physics more in our high schools, people would start to understand just sit there and take the old trick of put a basketball and then put a golf ball on top of it and then drop them. Basketball bounces this high. Golf ball goes that high. You are the golf ball. The car is the basketball. Steve, I knew how to evade the popo. I mean, I guess in certain places it might be easier. My police department was relatively bored for most of my young adult life and even my adult life. But yeah, my second focus that I had pretty extensively modified was marked in town. So if I passed the cop, even if I was doing the speed limit, I would get followed. My girlfriend laughed at me from your comment chat. Well, that's a success. That makes this entire stream worth it. I am glad I could bring a laugh out of her. It's what I strive for. Let's try to keep things lighthearted and fun. Doug goes, I've gotten out of many speeding tickets due to uniform, vet status, or politeness. I've always gotten reductions, something like disobeying a sign, even if the sign was a 65-mile-an-hour one when I was doing 100. I mean, same. Politeness, conversationalist. I used to purposely keep my golf bag in my back seat of my cars, And then I would just talk the officers ear off if they mentioned it. Oh, what's with the golf clubs? Funny you should ask. I work in the industry. Blah, 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 blah. Like, number one, great for getting out of doing anything remotely resembling a field sobriety test. But, you talk, you prove you're human. Most police officers, unless they're just a dick, they want to make sure you're being safe. Or you're not being dangerous nowadays because, let's face it, you can get away with a lot more now than you could, 4 years ago. You're less likely to be pulled over. So, look, am I speeding everywhere? No. Am I driving recklessly everywhere? No. Do I have fun from time to time? Yes. Do I choose the roads? Do I choose the road or put thought into the road I choose to do that on? 100%. If I make a mistake, whose lives am I ruining? Just mine? Okay. That sort of stuff. Sean goes, I have a clean record because a judge recognized me for my job, and instead of a speeding ticket, I got faulty equipment. I mean, there's so many stuff out of speeding tickets and stuff. Like, I've gotten a fully, like a 4-point speeding ticket reduced because I just asked the question because the cop clocked me going the opposite direction. I just go, when was the last time it was calibrated? And it was 2 days out of spec. Again, they just want to make sure that A, you pay a fine. Really, it all comes down to money. And B, you're not being a monumental dickhead on the roads. Let's see here. Andrew, YouTube Andrew, I don't know if you really need to teach quality physics. You could probably just open Live Leak for a couple hours. Not saying you shouldn't teach quality physics anyway. I mean, simple, easy stuff that explains what you are in, what a 2-ton vehicle moving at 40 miles an hour, the kinetic energy that it has, and the lack of kinetic energy that the average human has, even if they're grossly overweight, even if they're in the 400 to 500 pound range. 2 tons at 45 miles an hour wins. Get it's common sense, but like the common sense factor on kids, like it's just like, nope. Mommy said I was special, therefore I am, and that car right over there will stop. And that's the thought process. Elliot Manning over on Facebook. I've come to the conclusion that as long as you have enough money, your driving record will stay clean. I caused a car accident, and then a few years ago, I got a speeding ticket. I paid the fine. I paid the speeding ticket, and my record is still clean. I mean, if you're willing to stand in front of a judge and plead to something else, 99.9% of the time, you're going to get something that carries a little bit of a bigger fine and less points and so on. Because you're kind of taking the mea culpa, you're taking responsibility. You're not just being like, all right, whatever, here's some money or what have you. Which, car enthusiasts, great. But like it goes back to what we were talking about before with like the average state of the driver. It's like, I don't know if we're getting more tickets, so to speak, than they are, which is annoying because they suck. Doug, by the way, probably another 10-15 minutes chat, then we'll wrap things up. But as long as the conversation keeps moving, we'll kind of keep rolling. Doug goes, why do Volvo owners drive like assholes? Because they can. Safety first. Yes, and I do believe that the Volvo buyer has an air of, I'm smarter, and I'm not trying to generalize, like, because I know there's a lot of Volvo owners in this group who I think are just normal, regular people. Yourself included, Doug. Sean, just kidding. anytime you have like I don't want to call Volvo a fringe brand, but it's not, you don't see as many Volvos as you do the Germans or even Lexus, etc. But even they suffer from the same thing. I bought this luxury car, therefore I'm better than you. The luxury car business is basically profiting off of the ego of the country club. My car has X, Y, and Z. It has this much power. It has all this tech. Therefore, my cock is larger than yours. Men, women, doesn't matter. Same basic principle, right? And then you have like it. Remember the South Park episode where it was the smug of, I got a Prius. I'm saving blah blah blah. I'm better. Now, I'm not saying all Volvo owners or all owners of a certain type of car are like this. But when people who buy Volvos tend to buy them for slightly, the safety first. They're usually, they were quirky designed. Now they're very elegant. They have very nice interiors and stuff. But you have it for the safety and you have it for the lack of pretense, which in itself creates a sense of pretense. If you kind of catch what my meaning. So, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, it's the same basic concept of a guy modifying their car and coming up to me in a parking lot and being like, I got a little something for that 5.0. You probably don't, but I'm ears. Continue. Like, I want to hear it. I like cars. Cars are fun. Like, and they keep going. I got the K, the K turbocharged. We make 400 horsepower, 450 horsepower. That's more than the 5.0 comes from factory. Okay. Yeah, sure. Like, that's awesome. Glad you love your car. That's awesome. Does it run? Is it reliable? Do you enjoy it? It's great. I'm not, like, this isn't a measuring contest. Because guess what? I win. And that's not why I got into cars. It's not. I like having fun. Let's see here. Elliot goes, I didn't even stand in front of a judge. I went to court and the cop gave me the ticket. Said all I had to do was take some online driving course because it was the first car accident. Okay. Different stuff have different things. Like I've taken preemptive defensive driving courses. When I was at Enterprise, I took a defensive driving course every year because it was required, but it also helped me out with that sort of stuff. Steve, saw an elderly woman I'm guessing, in a late 50s, early 60s Volvo the other day. It was a super small, but it was a wagon. It's pretty dang cool. Sean goes, no, Chad, you were right. I live to my own beat, and my friends have a tendency to keep me from straying too far from that. Fair enough. V50 might be it. Yeah, that's right. That's people don't think or realize from Andrew. I don't know the Volvo names. The color was kind of like a navy blue. Well, let's try to help Steve out here. What the hell? High res my ass. Please hold, Steve. Sorry. There we go. What's going on? Apparently none of this stuff wants a high res image. Nice. Except more images. Here we go. What are you? 2005 Volvo S50 SV. Do you know about what is Heartbeat of performance. V50 SV producing an eye-popping 340 horsepower. Huh. Why the heck didn't they make that? But at any rate. Oh, for God's sake. More images. That. Download. Hi. There we go. Oh, some of these press sites annoy the crap out of me. Photos. All right. Was it this, Steve? Let's see here. Steve goes, guess what? I'm Irish. I couldn't tell with the name like the Veldkop. Sean, I ran the EVOQ course during my first responder time. Barrels blue, rebel blue. Newer version was denim blue. Person turquoise waving from Mike. Huh? Hi, Mike. How you doing? Welcome to YouTube. Glad you're here. Thanks for hanging out. But apparently, so this Volvo that you're looking at right here, it started as a V50, but this was a concept or something from Volvo that was like 340-ish horsepower from factory. Let's just see if it was all-wheel drive. But it was going to be a factory, 340 horsepower, and horsepower is nothing. Torque, piece if it won't disappoint. It's one off design to see how Volvo could push the envelope. It was done in-house by Volvo Special Vehicles Department in Sweden. Makes it more interesting in person. Putting power to the pavement is a close... Oh, shoot. I should just put the picture back up. Putting power to the pavement is close ratio 6-speed manual transmission that is also borrowed from the S60R. This is from Volvo's own website, by the way. And it has all-wheel drive. I like that a lot. I've always said that if I was to get if I was ever to go back into the P1, I'd mess around with the V50. Just because I like the idea of a small little wagon. Darker. The general shape, Steve. Gosh. Oh, yeah. Can we get an F in chat for the Avalon? F for all Toyotas. Veldkamp is Dutch. No shit. Stepdad adopted my sis and I back in 94. Oh, good to name. Birth name was McAvoy. Interesting. Thank you for the family history. I don't know where I'm. Brain's lagging. So, what this looks like. Is that just... Nope. All right. In that case, chat, I'm going to call it a night right there. It was smaller and rounder. In that case, I refer you to Doug. But in that case, guys, that's going to be a wrap for tonight. Sorry, it's a little bit of a shorter one. But we'll be back in full force with all the stuff Greg learned and gleamed from the auto show, hopefully, next week. Actually, next week, not only will Greg be back and we'll be talking about the auto show, but we'll have Elliot back on the show. So it'll be myself, Greg, and Elliot for Shifting Lanes. Next week, it should be a good time. Thanks again for everyone who watched. Steve, if it's from like the 50s and 60s, my guess would be a Volvo, Amazon, or 122 wagon. Google it. But in that rate, again, me, Greg, Elliot, next week should be fun. But for this one, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Doug, thank you for getting the shirt, and everyone who liked